you know, the people, like a couple of people I rescued, including that rape victim, I'm just like, that's not fucking right of you to do that. They get, you know, it's like what I saw with Selena and what this young black lady was saying she saw with Selena. All right, go ahead and play this.
As you can see from the title of this video, yield to whatever he's telling you to do. She was alive, just like we are, like all into it. And I like your many of her albums, and I used cousin and I were in. I'm gonna tell you why. Skin on her face, it looked like was because she had on this purple jumpsuit. And when I was younger, I was able to like tell you about all her famous outfits. And this purple jumpsuit was very famous. It was sparkly. It had like a diamond cutout in the belly button. It was kind of like bell bottoms. And so I see her, and I know it's her because of her figure and because of the outfit. If she didn't have that on, I would not have looked at her face and been able to say, yeah, that's Selena. But seeing the figure, seeing the outfit, and then looking, you can say, okay, that's her. Her face. Her face. I can't even explain to you guys how her face. I'm not talking about the expression on her face. I didn't get to that part yet. I'm talking about the skin. It wasn't skin, but the skin on her face. It looked like it was melting, but it was like it wasn't moving or anything. It just looked like it had melted and frozen that place. It was indented in some areas, it was lumped in some areas, and it was, if I had to give it a color, I would say it was some type of grayish color. It wasn't grayish and tan, it wasn't grayish and brown, it was nothing like a human skin color. It was grayish. Her hair, it looked like somebody took a bucket of like the Nickelodeon slime and poured it on her hair. And her hair, it just looked heavy and dirty. And it looked like it just had gook and all types of goo in it.
It's real. That's Santa Muerte's realm. She was stuck in muck. Watery, slippery muck. And I almost, while physically walking in my kitchen over there, I felt the surface alter into that, slippery muck. Like she's trying to fucking pull me into her realm. Now, again, she never existed like a Baron Samedi or an Oshuno Batala. The problem with her, she's a token. She got attached to your higher to highest self to have any meat to her. With that being said, the issue with her because of that is that, and this is the unfairness to the Mexicans, the Incan-derived people, the Mayan people, her followers act as judge, jury, and execution. And I saw this when this curse commenced, during Astroworld. She was taking a lot of energy out of the young lady, who her aspect was sent to protect me, you know, from all of this shit looming. And I wish I would have taken it a lot more seriously back then, because if I knew now what I would have lost, if I would have been cognizant of soul swapping and shit, that's a tall order. That's why I had one guy, you know, contact me yesterday talking about, oh, you know, curses are easy. Yeah, curses, but when you get soul swap, you can use 808 hertz frequency to jump back in your body. When you get soul swap, that's a very, very significant tall order to deal with. That's not very, very easy to deal with. You know, that's a very, very terrible thing to deal with. It's something that's just, it's outside of your comprehension. Nobody, you know, I've seen it with Adele, I've seen it with Kanye West. Nobody can fathom being soul swapped and jumping back into your body when, you know, like in the case of me, like I've seen in that August the 22nd, 2022 timeline, you got somebody in it, and from what I understand, there's a lot of celebrities protecting her, Illuminati protecting that body. Again, use 1245 hertz to get rid of her. I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger. I saw The Rock, who did a skit on SNL, you know, regarding pedophilia. I don't like them fucking people.
So chillingly evil. Okay, who is next?
Hi guys. My name is Roy, and for the most evil invention in the world contest, I invented a child molesting robot.
And from what I understand, in the past, they came, you know, in the astral plane to test me. They, you know, I believe I was being set up for soul swapping back then, you know, because, I mean, I was prominent with the topless thing, but it was more like local. I could never get, you know, even with the cop watching shit, attention for stuff. So I felt like the media blackout, looking back on it, was because they were anticipating my being soul swapped in the future and being more malleable, being more yielding to their demands and to the image they want to orchestrate for you. You know, you hear about how artists and all of that talk about, you know, orchestrating images, and these were record execs. And you know, I'm not a fucking singer. I have no interest in it. I got a nice voice, but I can see acting or directors, casting directors, I can fuck with that, or politicians, but that shit, you know, that I was being set up for soul swapping because that's not my interest. Satan ain't my interest. And from what I understand, the person that took over my body in that timeline is a prominent singer. And her timeline started at Radio City Music Hall. And I just want to get my shit back. That's all I want to motherfucking do is just get all my motherfucking shit back. And this Maria Tavares, that evil wetback bitch, you know, I heard that in the spirit plane that there was a young black man. A young black man that I actually saw when I first went to that shop that went in there, you know, wondering why was his child stuck in the realm of the dead, his young child. And from what I understand, the high self put him there because she don't like black people. It's a wetback that don't like blacks. Again, it goes back to the fact that their creator God, their main creator God was a reptilian named Quetzalcoatl. You know, the main demigod, demiurge of everybody else. He has a lion face, Yoda Bail, and that's his dragon form. And his physical form is black, skin of bronze, hair of wool. That's the God of everybody else, which we black people directly come from. They come from a white god that's done cursed them. A reptilian white god, you know, full on fucking dragon, reptile. You know, it's got something to do with the Cometians splicing their genes or something to create them. I drew correlations years ago between them and, you know, the Cometians and them. And, you know, they were possibly, I don't want to say a satellite colony, but, you know, maybe the reptilians founded them or something. But that's why they worship white people to this day. You know, when they see white people, they see their God. When they see black people, they see competition for their God. And that's a problem. That's why when the Spaniards, when Cortez and all of them arrived in South America, they heralded them as their God returned, as their gods returned, and were giving them gold and shit. You know, there ain't no colonial mentality mindset with their asses. They worship white people because their creator God, Quetzalcoatl, was white. He would shapeshift into a white man. So, you know, all this black, we ain't got, you got to look at the spirit and you got to look at their spiritual origin. And that's what a lot of motherfuckers need to understand. That's why I'm having these, you know, problems with a lot of them motherfuckers, you know, in the spirit plane. But that August the 22nd, 2022, it's their gods, crackers. I'm trying to figure out and ascertain what the fuck is going on. With that being said, you know, I'm going to say this right now. I had a lot of spiritual fucking protection. With these nigga bitches here, it seemed like the voodoo Lord protects them. But I also got Elegua, his origins are fucked up. He was somebody like me set up to be a sacrifice overnight. And he didn't even see it coming. Some white Spanish, and I'm going to say this right now to them, but, you know, if you have Spanish blood, you ain't no European. Spaniards got raped by the fucking Moors, just as described in True Romance. So you have fucking nigger, which, you know, is not a point of pride. Well, be black is a point of pride, but I ain't one of these people, you know, I ain't one of these, I know who I am, so I ain't one of these low self-esteem niggas that, you know, I gotta be associated. I know what you are and I know what I am. So let's just keep it at that. With that being said, some Spanish motherfucker put a curse on a poor black man with a lot of strong spiritual abilities and powers and condemned him to the worst realm you can imagine. And there was a Reddit article that was one of my favorites talking about a grandfather and stuff and going into the underworld that described it. It's called a living furniture realm. There was something called, I experienced this when I was trying to write the book, Astroworld, the Swami brothers. And they had people tied together as living furniture. And that's a horrible realm where your consciousness is still operating, but you're stuck to a wall. You're affixed to a wall. You can't go any fucking where. And it's one of the most evil ass realms you could condemn a person to. And that's what happened with the real Ilegua. That's why you hear about seeing entity attachments of him as an older man and as a young boy. That's entity attachments coming from him due to his body being broken. So just use, and I rescued him as well, or tried. Use 35, and I heard he's still being controlled by them evil motherfuckers. So use 3517 hertz, use 3571 hertz to put back together a spirit body, as well as 117 hertz, along with 800 hertz, which works on both physical and spirit bodies. And the reason why that's the best frequency is because even if you get cremated, entity attachments of your ancestors and all of that still live in your physical bones, because physical in the spirit plane has buoyancy. It's material, you know, so it gives it weight. So with that being said, that's what you want to fuck with, to give somebody life, to put somebody back together. And 125 hertz, 1185 hertz, which transmutes, to release people from hell realms, as well as people from 156 hertz from spirit jars. You know, my road spirits brought them from out of there. They saw it was horrible. They saw where he was at, and they brought him right from up out of there. And, you know, he came out a lot happier. I don't want to see anybody, you know, it's like the heavy energy signature I got on me. I don't want to see anybody be a fucking sacrifice and have that heavy ass energy be burden on them and to, without their consent, be made a fucking sacrifice. It's the most horrible fucking devious thing I've ever motherfucking seen. I feel like some trying to manipulate me into saying something. With that being said, that's what I see with these people, especially Zendaya here. Going back to that August the 22nd, 2022 timeline with this Heat bullshit trying to do with me. You know, all of these motherfuckers trying to take my spiritual powers and set me up to be a fucking sacrifice. I saw the Illuminati in them timelines. I got pulled out for a brief second, and I was shown in the spirit plane what was really, really going on. And that shit ain't no motherfucking joke. That's the most evil ass motherfucking thing I've ever fucking seen, you know, is to have somebody without their fucking consent be set up to be a fucking sacrifice unwittingly, you know, unwillingly. It's like what I saw with Ilegua, same motherfucking thing. Shit, my consciousness is so cored out and so fucked up, it's not even funny. And something in there just altered something to where I won't be able to reach out to get any help. I'll get blocked and so forth and so on. And I felt that, the minute I just do something fucking changes in my spirit body, and this shit's got to be fucking fixed. Yeah, this is the most evil fucking shit. The minute I just have a fucking thought, it fucks everything up. Now, with that being said, I see the same thing with this, and I'm not, I pretty much saw my life pack. Fucking God rejected me. I know the real name. Satan, I heard that. I know his real name too. He's one of the ones. A couple of nights ago, I actually saw his ass. He actually was one of the ones that took me out of my body, going back to August 22nd, 2022. Him and this entity here. And I'm going to say this right now, that's just, I lived much of my life in drudgery, I hated it, sex work for a minute, and that's because it was forced due to being the curse by barren samity, but I was supposed to have my silver lining in alignment with who I truly am later on, being able to do art, which I should have been able to do, if it wasn't for the same motherfucker who chauffeured this girl into my body, into my timelines. If it wasn't for the fact of having an unfair fucking guy who set it up for me to be under fucking heavy curses, my connection to God, who basically sold a part of my Baphomet, used 694 hertz, 695 hertz. You see, I'm still trying to get my parents in that timeline. Who set it up gave a part of my Baphomet to Jay-Z, who I, back in 1991, I used to have a lot of what I would call astro visions of him. I remember having visions when I was very young of me and a couple of kids waiting backstage to see him, and I felt like it was for rape. But rape in the spirit plane, just like I experienced a couple of days ago, correlates to having your shit stolen, having your shit taken in the spirit plane. The Illuminati calls it being set up to be a prostitute, where, like, from what I heard, them two higher selves in that timeline that set me up to be. And try to do some flim flam where they're going to show you my original, Jewish lady, don't fall for it. But the original, basically they were setting it up in the spirit plane for me to be a sacrifice. When I was younger, I should have been a child prodigy. And another note I want to make here is that Jay-Z didn't blow up until 1997 with Big Pimpin'. I remember that. And from what I understand in many timelines, you know, there's one where he refused to make a deal with the Illuminati. All of them he did. So he won't end up poor like me. They constantly take his blessings. I hear the same thing with Madonna, and I've seen her in my timeline stealing my shit as well. I've been wanting to do an article about her, but it's been getting delayed. Madonna Urantia, Cicione. Lourdes Urantina, something's one of her higher selves names. Also, I'm trying to figure out Maria Oliveira from Maria Tavares, because she ain't the only higher self, so I need to check out her higher selves to be able to get to her higher self, and I just felt her fuck with an entity attachment just now after revealing that. So I'm going to have to do something to get this shit under control. With that being said, you know, I could have been a child prodigy. I fell prey victim to this evil shit. Keep hearing evil shit saying sacrifice. I fell prey to this evil shit. And, you know, it's fucked up how, you know, it's the same thing with Bianca Zapata. You know, same exact fucking thing. She was a Mexican, a wetbag, who touched my whatchamacallit right here for no reason. And my connection guy, from what I understand, racist motherfucker who didn't like the fact that I incarnated black, you know, as a black woman, you know, in that past life where he was, from what I understand, one of my relatives. We were Swedish, and he didn't like the fact that I incarnated as a black woman. I feel like something trying to keep me from being able to see exactly what's going on in the spirit plane right about now. She keep, from what I understand, removing my entity attachments, but I got to figure out her lower selves names. For her mother, I got Gertes or something, but I got to figure out her higher selves names, that tarot reader. Because I feel like this evil shit is intimidating me in my own fucking head, and I don't appreciate that shit. You know, she was able to, at one point, disable my ability to play frequency. So anyways, with that being said, I've been set up. You know, I keep seeing it with this, you know, here.